Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie, and welcome to the penultimate weekend Premier League main slates. Really, considering that last weekend's the last weekend. We end on Sunday, and then we're done off for the summer. So yeah, I'm super excited here. I wish DraftKings would kind of share my enthusiasm. Contests I feel like should be bigger than they are, but it doesn't help when they add like prices 18 hours before lock, which is disrespectful. I really wish DraftKings took more care of their soccer product. But we have a lot to get into, so I won't rant for too long. Six game, like this should be a juicy slate on paper. Biggest favorites, excuse me, are Tottenham, followed by Everton at minus 270. Then Newcastle minus odds, West Ham are minus odds. So a lot of pretty decent favorites on here. We have Bournemouth at plus 100 and Wolves or I think Crystal Palace over Wolves at plus 130. So plenty of games really, and plenty of kind of ways to go. In terms of projected lineups for Wolves, interesting that we see no Sarabia in projected again. Usually means eight Nori takes something, although we've seen Cunha take a little bit. We've seen Bellegarde take in the past. We've seen Gomez take. So it's just a little bit of an uncertain situation without Sarabia in. For Crystal Palace, I want to say it's an Elise Eze split. However, last game Elise took kind of the vast majority. But Eze, I feel like will just take something at some point, I'm sure. However, Elise's been kind of the more attractive DFS option as of late. Bournemouth, Brentford. Interesting that we see no Alex Scotton. He's been playing a couple games lately. Always kind of baiting people considering he's 4K and just never seems to quite do anything, even though it always feels like he's in a not terrible spot. For set pieces, it's mostly Cook. However, we could see Christie split. They kind of swap between those two scenarios. However, Cook will always kind of take something. For Brentford, it should be a Reguilon. Ooh, no Jensen, which means it should be a either Reguilon Monopoly or maybe Damsgaard ends up splitting. But Reguilon should take something else they get weird and maybe Mbuemo ends up starting to take sets again, but he hasn't been lately. Everton, Sheffield United. McNeil Monopoly last couple of games. However, if we see Gardner or Andre Gomez in, they could end up splitting. So we'll see for them. For Sheffield United, it should be a Homer McAtee split. However, we could see Osborne split. We could maybe see Homer take everything. We could maybe see our Blaster randomly take, but not exactly a super consistent pattern. Newcastle, Sheffield United. It's mostly Anthony Gordon now. Could maybe see Murphy hop on randomly. Hall might take a small share too with Gordon. So that's something to think about, but mostly Gordon. And for Brighton, it should be a gross monopoly, or maybe even Gilmore splitting. They're weird like that sometimes. We could see Barco in two, and he might split, but mostly gross. Tottenham, Burnley. Now, if Madison starts, it should mostly be Madison. However, Poro could end up hopping on randomly. We shall see. Interesting about Madison is just he has not been playing a ton of minutes lately. Either gets subbed early, like at the 60th minute, or comes in off the bench. So he's just been kind of in a weird spot right now, and Anna just doesn't seem to really trust him, which is sad because he'd be a great play if we just knew he'd lock on a Monopoly and play 90 minutes. For Burnley, it should be mostly Bruno Larson, if they even have that many, considering how much possession Tottenham usually keep. West Ham, it'll either be a Ward-Prowse Monopoly or a Ward-Prowse Bowen split. I lean towards Ward-Prowse Monopoly. However, he might not even start anyway. Like he's kind of lost his starting role a little bit. Like he'll sometimes play, sometimes won't. It's a lot harder to predict for them. If we see no Ward-Prowse, it should be a Bowen and Emerson split. Kind of double left-footed. Emerson takes the outswingers, Bowen takes the inswingers. For Burnley, it's mostly Doughty. Could maybe see Barkley took one or two, but that's them. All right, prices. I'm gonna try to speed through this here because there's so many games and so many players because of that. Gordon, most expensive forward. On a minus favorite. He's on super hot. He's in play. Just whether you want to get up to that 10,500 and eat that much salary. He probably needs at least a goal contribution to be worth it. Like you're looking for that 20-point mark, which he doesn't even get all the time, even with a goal contribution. I was saying that he can still easily drop like a 50 point and like he did against Tottenham. However, he is playing Brighton though, and they've been bad, but they just don't seem like a team to me that will just roll over. Like they'll still try to keep possession, and that makes it a little bit harder for Newcastle to kind of play as well as they have lately, like against Burnley and Sheffield United. However, saying that, Tottenham are a possession team too, and we saw Gordon pull up these numbers. Ishak 10,300, probably avoid in cash, but he's been super hot, probably in play in GPP. McNeil 10K. This is the cash option for me. A crosser, taking everything lately. Home Sheffield United, that's a good matchup. Sheffield have been shipping so many goals. I'm super happy to play a ton of McNeil. Son, he's not a bad play, 9,400. Super good matchup. Been pretty hot lately. He's a safe 90-minute guy usually for Tottenham when they don't have a ton of those, with how much they rotate their attackers. Now, Jared Bowen. If there's no Ward-Prowse, why not go Jared Bowen? I know West Ham tend to sit back a little bit, but it is the Moyes farewell tour, so maybe the players just play for him a little more. I'm sure they're grateful for everything he's done for them, won a trophy with them. So I could see Bowen definitely getting there too. He's in play for cash for me too, considering he has a decent floor when he has set pieces. As at 8,500, I'm a little bit wait and see on him. I know he did pretty well last game against United. However, I'm just a little worried about these lack of crosses now, considering Olise has kind of taken over as the main guy. 8,500 is pretty steep. Now, Calvert-Lewin, if he was like 5K, I'd love him as a play. He's now been priced up a decent amount. I know he's kind of gotten back into good form, but 8,400 for a guy who just has not scored a ton this season. I know he's been on a little bit of a run, but he still has these 2-point games in him. Super goal reliant, and I know it's Sheffield United, but just a little bit worrying. It's interesting they have him in the 4-4-2. I wonder if that'll be correct. I kind of want to look at Chermiti specifically now. 6K. Yeah, see, even that's a ton. I don't know why they suddenly priced him up so much. I know it's a good matchup, but they're a bit of a scary rosters. Now, Gross. Always a popular cash guy. I just don't think this is the matchup considering how well Newcastle are playing right now. And you kind of want more upside than he typically has on a slate like this when there's so many games. There's just too many options and too many possibilities for more ceiling than what he offers. Mateta, João Pedro, they're all right in GPP. Not really thinking about him in cash. I think a lot of the Tottenham attackers will end up pretty popular. Whoever starts on the wing and it's striker, Richarlison, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner. Oh, Werner's out. I forgot about that. But Johnson, Kulusevski's there too. 3,600 for Johnson's like probably fair. I don't think that's good value or anything. Richarlison at cheaper. I think that's good value. He played super well against Liverpool. Decent to 9, playing home Burnley. It's a good matchup. I think Richarlison's a pretty decent play here. Brennan Johnson maybe has a little bit more of a floor, but kind of want more upside, like I said. Umbuemo. Till he starts taking, I'm kind of on fade for him right now, especially with that matchup one with our good side right now. Everyone else, kind of whatever. Cunha 7K, that's pretty cheap. Still kind of getting back from injury, not quite at 100% yet, but decent option. We're used to seeing like at 9K, so 7K is quite the drop off from that. Solanke, that is cheap. That's a great GPP play. Has had a pretty decent floor lately. I don't know if he's that cash viable, but that price, he might even be worth the swing there. Like, that's a pretty fair price for Dom Solanke. Same with Ivan Tony. That is so cheap for him. Has not been good, but like, there's some serious GPP options here at these prices for these strikers who are just not in great form, but you just know what they're capable of. Kind of like the opposite of with Calvert Lewin, where he's kind of overperforming. These guys are underperforming. You kind of expect them to bounce back at some point. Callum Wilson, a little bit scared of his minutes right now. He's not 4K, which was a lot more appealing at 6. He's all right, but nothing crazy. Same with Chermiti. Definitely has a threat of not playing minutes. He has not got a goal contribution all season. Maybe worth a flyer in GPP for cash. You kind of want someone safer than that. Grizz not bad. He played super well last game. But once again, I'm kind of looking for guys with more favorable matchups in cash. Not seeing a ton of nice bargain forwards here, really. All kind of meh to me. I think you're probably paying up a forward or taking a flyer on one of those 6K guys, personally. Not a lot of punt forwards. Midfielders. Olise, the big name here. He's been on a super hot run. Wolves isn't that scary of a matchup. 9,700 is just a lot, though. But like this Wolves team is not intimidating at all. Crystal Palace are so high flying right now. Ugh, it's tempting. It really is. Even though usually I'm afraid of that kind of matchup with this many games, but with how well Elise is playing, there's real debate in that. And now James Madison. If he starts, I think you just take the plunge. Like he's had super good points off the bench here. He just is lacking in goal contribution really, and then he just soars up like 20, 25 points easily. And I think he's just worth the risk if he plays. He might get subbed at 60, but with his talent, having set pieces, I think you just play him. 8,700 is underpriced, I feel like, for him. If he was like prime James Madison, he'd be like the most expensive midfielder on the slate for sure. I just bank on him kind of finding that form against Burnley. I know that Burnley are kind of playing well right now, but Tottenham have to have a bounce back game. Like they've been so bad lately. I just feel like that Ange will not let them continue in that fashion. And for 8,700, probably Monopoly set taker, biggest favorite. I think it's worth the risk. Hope he doesn't get subbed. Dowdy, just not the matchup here. Doesn't have the upside. Although he had the upside last game, that was home Everton, away West Ham. Like you could argue it maybe. I just don't think it's the upside though. Now Kudus, he's always popular. 8,100 is not cheap at all, but he's had just a solid floor almost every game. He's in play. It doesn't just make a ton of sense when you think about how you traditionally pick cash plays, which is just floor and set pieces. He doesn't have those really, but he just has his kind of artificial floor and just I don't even know. What does he do to get as many points as he does? He crosses a lot, he gets a lot of fouls drawn. He just gets points, which is just the name of the game. These Newcastle guys, Murphy and Barnes, they're all right in GPP. I think they'll be super low owned because of how many other options there are. Now, Ward Prowse, he might pick up a decent amount of steam. He's always Mr. like Premier League cash. He's kind of the poster child for that. He's just not as good at West Ham as he kind of was at Southampton. Has a little bit of stub risk to him. He's not really the main guy there, so he doesn't get quite as forward. But he's definitely an option at 7,300. Sarabia. If he plays, I think I might go that. I know he hasn't been starting, but he puts up solid numbers when he's in. Crystal Palace is not a terrible matchup, and 6,700 is just so cheap for a set taker at home. Akita, whatever. He's on pens, so maybe worth the flyer in that sense, but never really my kind of guy. Now, Kulusevski. Ugh, I've played him these last couple games. Did well against Arsenal, but then super bad against Chelsea and Liverpool. I just don't really know what to say about him. Like he's a way to get exposure to Tottenham and probably the cheapest way to do it in terms of in terms of attackers. However, his minutes aren't very great, and his upside has never been that great. He's not a huge goal contribution guy, but for 6K, I just feel like you can do a whole lot worse. We're not really thinking about. Well, maybe I should. Homer's been super hot. Maybe he ends up with a decent amount of ownership. He's not bad, I suppose, for 6K. Barkley, I'm not really thinking about. Harrison, 5,800. Look at how much floor he had last game. Home Sheffield United. I might go this, honestly. I like the matchup. He's had a solid floor. That's a great play. That might be even in my cash for good. 5,800, like, yeah, I'm super tempted by that, actually. I'm trying to think less about sets being the be all end all because on these teams playing, I don't want to say inferior opposition, but worse teams, these upside guys really come to light there. Lewis Cook, meh, just so meh. Never mind kind of guy, especially here. He's not going to win a GPP. At least he really shouldn't. Bellegarde, a little bit afraid of his minutes, but in a flyer GPP build, sure. Cash, probably not. Lewis Hall, 4,100. People will always play him. I probably will too. He's just a safe cash play for a 6 to 7 at 4K. Just take it. Usually he'll be popular. Now to Corey. This for me is a pretty interesting pivot. Oh, is he injured? He's not even injured, but he's an interesting pivot to me off of Lewis Hall. A little bit more upside. When he plays like in that second striker role, he gets super far forward. I know that hasn't really led to anything lately, but he's got a lot of upside for a guy that cheap. Alex Scott, 4K. Just not been great, really. Not really taking set pieces either. You just pick him hoping that he randomly decides to pick him up again and hoping it's a goal contribution just because he plays higher up the pitch usually, but he just hasn't really impressed me lately. I wish Miguel Almiron would be freed. If he starts, like 4K is great, great value. Then Osborne. If there's no McAtee, should guarantee he has set pieces. If that was the case, I think he'd be fine. Just you probably go Lewis Hall over, honestly. Joe Gomez. Eh. Billy Gilmore. He ended up taking a couple corners last game. Just kind of never really that much upside on him. Maybe he'll randomly get to 8, but that's really the best you can do there. And I'm not even sure he ends up still taking because Brighton are weird and they just might put Gross back on everything again. Not a ton of great value, really. Like Lewis Hall, I think will be the most popular kind of cheap player in cash, and that's if people don't just go like James Ward-Prowse and Jack Harrison, which I might do, honestly. We'll see how I'm feeling. Poro's just a big decision here. If Ward-Prowse is in, or not Ward-Prowse, sorry, James Madison is in, probably doesn't take anything. That scares me a little bit. But he's just been super solid, and maybe he'll end up splitting somehow. Like, I think people might just play him in cash without even thinking about it. But I think there's real strong arguments to maybe get off of him, honestly. Go to like a Region instead, save a K, guy who you know will take set pieces. I think I prefer Region over Poro right now if there's no Madison in. Or if Madison is in. If there's no Madison, yeah, I'll go Porto easily. Give me his set pieces when he's got no competition. I'll take that. But if Madison plays, I probably fade Porto, honestly. He's probably in play, even with Madison, but I just don't think I'll get there myself. All the other mids, there's nothing really special here. If there's no Sarabia, maybe he can get to 8 Nori. I think he'd be not a bad option there if that was the lineup. Everyone else I'm kind of whatever on. Barco, if he's in, I like him a lot. I wouldn't mind going that. Any set piece taking defender, I'm all in on. Oh, this Romero. This is a guy who's super solid off of set pieces. Scored that goal against Arsenal just from charging up the field single-handedly. I could see Romero being a decent little GPP play. Same with Dunk. These kind of like you see them as goal scoring center backs. Always room for that in these big games. And I feel like these big slates are always kind of decided by that. You're going to get like 12 goals, 12 points if they score a goal off of a set piece. And that's the best value on the slate right there, probably for that price. And playing those guys gets you your guaranteed high point guys, like your Madisons, like your Sons. Or I don't want to say guaranteed, but guaranteed to have the ability to get those big points. Not a ton of other kind of nice mids. Cresswell, if he plays and there's no Ward Prowse, probably takes. That'd be all right in that case, but pretty unlikely scenario. Igor Julio, I think people just go because he's a left back, even though he doesn't really do anything that you'd kind of want for a left back to do, which is cross the ball. And yeah, like I think you either punt defender or you get up to Poro or Region. Mid range isn't really there unless we see a Barco in or an 8 Nori. But there's a few names that I'm thinking about. I'm not putting a ton of thought into the rest of them really. Pair center back with the set taker. Deepest fullback I'll probably play, depending on who that comes from. In terms of goalkeeper, perhaps shoot, especially in a 6 gamer. Like one of these guys probably drops 20 points. Just have no clue who it ends up being. Could be Vicario since Tottenham kind of let in so many shots. Could be Pickford because of the same reason. Could be even Fodderingham if Sheffield go up early. There's so many avenues for these goalkeepers to do well, and it just comes down to a ton of variance, which one ends up being the best one. Oh my God, my dog, look at him. In terms of the core, give me McNeil. If Madison goes in, I probably play Madison. And I think I go Region as my third piece if we're going off of projected lineups. If Madison doesn't start, I probably go McNeil, Region, Toro. That's what I want to say. Yeah, especially if this lineup is right and we get the Region Monopoly lineup. Probably what I do there. All right, guys. That'll be it. Good luck, and I'm looking forward to next weekend. Bye, guys.